All right, everybody. Welcome back to Fingers Crossed Motorsports. I know it's been a while, okay? That's my fault. Both Rob and I have been just dealing with a lot of stuff, personal issues and work and things like that get in the way. So, we're going to talk about my Volvo again, some changes that have happened. Like the engine's back out of the car. Again, not for any bad reason, just because it's a lot easier to work on stuff out of the car than it is in the car. I can see from different angles and stuff. One of the things I've been working on is the starter. As you can see, I did this a long time ago. I got a hole here cut, kind of making this weird little bracket thing. It fits, it's just kind of, yeah. Eventually what I want to do with this is kind of take apart this head, this whole big giant piece that makes up the head of the starter, and kind of take it to a CNC shop, make it all one piece, put it back together again. But for now, that's just what it's going to have to be, is that bracket holding it there. Hopefully it works and not just shattering in a million pieces. Second thing that we need to do is crank position sensor. Don't mind this. This is destroyed from a previous accident with not paying attention. So plan is right now to put here where the factory T5 S60R motor is, or crank position sensor is. Obviously, I have nothing to mount it on the back here. So what we're going to do instead is drill a hole, tap it, get a spacer, and just kind of set it right like that in there. There is space for that. It will work just fine, but that's what I'm going to be doing. Next up is some fun news. I got a belt. Very short belt. It's only 40 inches. And that's because the factory engine, the factory setup from Volvo, has a few things that I don't. For one, power steering pump goes here. There's a pulley there that's normally there. Or that's not there, that's normally there. Second is the air conditioning compressor and the water pump. Water pump goes here, AC below that. I obviously don't have either of those. Mainly just because this engine didn't come with those pieces. Didn't come with the alternator either, but I went and sourced one of those. The water pump it came with. The AC compressor it did not. Few issues with that. Power steering pump is very expensive. Well, some of them. I found a couple for around $150, but those are like your China Bay ones that may or may not work. The rest of them are upwards of $400. So that's why I just wasn't going to run power steering. Rob actually had the idea that maybe I should find a way to do it because you have to modify the existing hydraulic power steering rack if you're going to do that. As far as AC, just didn't really bother looking for one. And the AC condenser is part of the factory intercooler over there, all kind of buttoned together, and I don't really feel like trying to deal with it. So the water pump, I do have the water pump. I'm not running the factory water pump. I bought an electric one from Davies Craig. Here it is. And I just feel like it's a better option. I don't have or know where all of the hoses from the factory setup go or run to. And rather than trying to source all of them, find where they all go, I just figured I know where the water goes in, I know where the water comes out, so electric pump will be just fine. One thing that I would love to get working is this. This is the factory oil cooler. It is water cooled, which is freaking sweet. But I don't have a fitting for these because they go to the factory pipes that come off the water pump. It's a big long, so it sits here, and it's a big collection of a outlet, an inlet, a bunch of things come off of it. I have it over there. I just don't feel like grabbing it. But I would love to plumb these in somehow. I'm just not entirely sure how I'm gonna do that. We have oil temp, I'm assuming, right here, or pressure, either one. So I gotta wire all that in, find a plug for that. Big issue with this engine, or at least the wiring harness that I got for it, is a lot of the stuff's crumbly. But anyways, enough about that. Back to this. So this is my solution for having those 3 missing pulleys. You can see there's one missing here. I've moved it to over here. There is a mount here for something. I can't say I know exactly what was here, but there is a hole there. So I have a spacer that I'm getting, that I'm gonna make for that. Have some aluminum stock on the way, so I can take care of that, put that where it needs to be, center it on this bolt, and then my belt is just gonna go like so. Hang on, it's hard to do with one hand. Enjoy the zoom in. Like that. I posted a picture of this on some groups. It looks like it's going to be a little close there, but once this has tension on it, it does tension. You know, once the spring is compressed, I think that'll be just fine. It won't be in the way. So yeah, I think that's going to work phenomenal. This will, of course, work on any of these V8s. It is not project specific to what I'm doing here. So if that's something that you're interested, running an electronic power steering pump and electronic water pump, there's your solution. I did get, let's walk through my very dirty garage. There's the intake manifold. An electric power steering pump. Oh, Jesus, falling over. This is, I believe, from a slightly later model, S40, Volvo S40. This is something very common for a lot of people running electronic power steering in, say, drift cars, but don't want to run pumps or belt-driven pumps. So it's apparently really easy to wire in. You got your power and ground right there, and then one of those pins to turn it on and off with the ignition. So that is something I'm going to be putting in the car. Most likely, hooray, most likely up like where this fog light is. I don't know if you could see that with my finger, like behind this area. That is where the factory windshield washer fluid bottle is, kind of right behind, right around this rail. I'm gonna take that out and see if I can't fit that there. And then the lines should be pretty close to it because the factory pumps on both motors are kind of like right here. So I'm hoping I can just take the flex lines and run them that way instead. And that way I can retain the factory cooler. I don't have to do anything fancy crazy with that. I also got to put the ABS in, but we're not going to talk about that right now. That's for sure. I have somewhere the mount for the transmission of the body. Oh, here it is. This goes here. Wait. Hang on, I'm stupid. This goes here, like this. I'm just going to hold it there without bolting it in. But I'm going to plan on running the turbo kit. That's right, I'm turboing it. I have my turbo sitting over there. I'm planning on taking the factory manifold, cutting out right below the collector, which ends like right here. I'm just going to 90 it out, kind of bend it around this way, and then under here through this factory tunnel where the front exhaust manifold typically comes through. And that'll should solve that issue. I'm going to take it up front, run it back up. I have a twin scroll turbo, so that way I don't have to worry about airflow differences. So I'm going to do some stuff. I'm going to try to drill and tap that, get that all sorted, and we'll pick this up in a second. All right, so it's a couple days later, and my phone doesn't have much battery, so I'm going to be quickly going through this. Crank position sensor is mounted. Spacing should be good. I did measure. Shouldn't be too much of an effect that this is like slightly touching here. But all I did, drilled a hole, tapped it with an M6x1 thread, and then got a little nylon spacer. There's a metal washer here too, just to take up, extra that I cut off. But bolted that down, It's on there really solid, so that should be perfect for what I need. And then if spacing isn't correct, I can add or remove washers, which is great. Work on a couple other things. Next up is my fuel rail situation. Is this monstrosity. So this is the factory fuel rail from this V8. The reason I think it's kind of made like this is if we go up here to the top, you can see this has very long runners that they do obviously so that way, you know, you get all that low end torque out of this family hauler V8. So we got all of our injectors down here. All of them look pretty good. The O-rings weren't bad at all. Everything slipped right off the way it was supposed to. Nothing stuck or got damaged. But anyways, so that's why it has these weird long feet off of it to get down to those. This is the feed right here. This is just the pressure relief. So my plan with this is to lop off the ends, just 6AN weld bungs, and I'm just going to put them here on the ends. It is a much larger diameter feed than this, so it's going to get a lot more flow, which is good for what we have planned. And there it is. That is now an adapted factory fuel rail for a return style fuel system. Worked out really, really well. Had a buddy of mine weld it up.
So we're going to have some new content coming out here for you soon. There's going to be a little bit of a project because there's a slight issue with the old DSM. Imagine that, right? Well, if you happen to see my video from the cylinder scene interview where they went over my car and everything is done to it, you may have noticed a little bit of smoke rolling out of the exhaust. Well, said smoking has got much worse, and I've done a little bit of research, and I did pull the exhaust off and look in it, and I found that there is either bad valve seals or a cracked valve guide. So we are going to be making a video in a very near future of the teardown. We're going to remove the head. Head's going to machine shop, and we're going to show how it comes apart. I'm going to do a pretty detailed demonstration of everything, and hopefully we should be able to get it running before we get the the weather we get here in Pennsylvania, because it's early October. All right, well, keep your fingers crossed.